A letter for our CEO, Mr. Johnson. I just came back from a great skiing trip with a bunch of colleagues. It was short holiday in our private time and paid in full by anyone who joined the trip. In other words, it was a private trip, with all attendees working at the same company. The youngest person in the group was fresh out of school, while others have been in key positions in the company for decades. The company I work for is a Dutch engineering firm with 1,000 plus employees. This field of work is dominated by men. We are a professional yet very informal organization, where everyone addresses each other on a first-name basis. Our former CEO was with us on the trip. Let's call her Kathy Johnson. Not only is she a great skier, she is also a very outgoing person who loves to have fun and who hates pretentious behavior. By the way, the reason that she's not the CEO anymore but still works at the company is that we have a mandatory rule that requires the executive board to step down at the age of 55. The thought behind that is that the best performing, fresh-minded leaders are generally not people who are well past 60 years of age. On the day of our return trip, a 10-hour drive, we were carpooling. We had already vacated the hotel and went out skiing until well after lunchtime. While we were changing clothes out in the open in the car parking, she shared a great story. While she was the CEO, she received many letters addressed to the CEO, Mr. Johnson or Mr. C. Johnson. These letters were all based on the false assumption that the CEO of an engineering firm must be a man. She instructed her secretary to return every single letter unopened that addressed her as a man. Her secretary, also a woman, loved doing that. She returned dozens of letters over the year, stating that there was no Mr. Johnson at our company. When I asked Kathy about the replies, she told me that the senders invariably either sent a second letter with profuse apologies or were never heard of again. TLDR. Female CEO in a field of work heavily dominated by men returns every single letter that addresses her as a man. WTF was the point of mentioning the ski trip? I don't understand. How hard would it be to look up the information about the CEO of such big company and find out that it was headed by a female? I guess people are also lazy when attempting to reach out to the CEO of a big company. I'm confused about what the ski trip, the retirement age, etc. have to do with this story. Based on the skiing anecdote intro, I'm guessing Op also runs a recipe channel where the videos take 45 minutes to get to the actual recipe. That's a lot of preamble about a skiing trip for it not to feed into the actual story. Me and my colleagues went on a trip to the moon. We were there for 180 days and had to fight Martians. While we were fighting Martians, my colleague told me about the time he forgot his trousers on the bus. Isn't that insane? The ski trip details were irrelevant to the story. This is just regular executive activity. Vast majority of them have the view of, if you don't have time to know who you're contacting, I don't have time for you. So the ski trip has nothing to do with the story? Why did we need to know about the ski trip and who complied maliciously? Sounds like a secretary listened to her boss. Funny though. Never assume. Whomever wrote the letters should have done their homework on the firm and the CEO. Who hates pretentious behavior? Yeah, about that. I'm calling BS. Try R. Wholesome compliance. How is it legal to require that old people fire themselves? By the way, the reason that she's not the CEO anymore but still works at the company is that we have a Mandatory rule that requires the executive board to step down at the age of 55. The thought behind that is that the best performing, fresh-minded leaders are generally not people who are well past 60 years of age. Wow. What's with the ski trip part up front? Do you write recipes online? The whole skiing part of that story was pretty irrelevant. I read the title of this, and the more I read, I was just terrified that the CEO was going to do something bad. My assumptions are based entirely on the American work culture. Mr. C. Johnson sounds like a badass. Cool story, but I miss the malicious compliance part. Returning mail to sender is not compliance. I am a woman who owns a business in a male-centric industry, and I will be doing this moving forward. I'm Dutch and just got back from a ski trip with my Dutch fintech, engineering company and other Dutch companies in Austria. I don't suppose we were on the same trip, were we?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.